Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Raccon, Tycoon, and it's from Forbidden Games. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. You can do that by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Follow that link, go to the Kickstarter page, and find out more information than I could possibly tell you here, and hopefully you'll consider backing the project. Now, Raccon Tycoon is a competitive game where you and the other players are, it takes place in sort of another version of Industrial Revolution era Earth, but where all the people are actually anthropomorphic animal people type of thing. But more importantly, gameplay-wise, what you're doing is you're trying to buy and sell commodities in order to get the cash from them and the resources, in order to buy railroads and different railroad companies, like whole sets of railroads, in order to buy buildings and buy more buildings to enhance your ability to do that, in order to buy towns, which are also enhanced by your railroads, so on and so forth. Now, that sounds very, very complicated, of course, but it's really not. This is actually a gateway Euro-style game that is easy to get into, but has a surprising amount of strategic depth. So, let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played with a prototype copy of the game. So, as always, do bear in mind that what you see in this preview may change in the final version. That's why you should go to the Kickstarter page to find out even more information. But in any event, we will come back and discuss it further. Raccon Tycoon is a competitive game for 2 to 5 players. Each player is one of the titular tycoons in the world of Astoria. You each have the goal of acquiring valuable commodities and using them to sell for profit, build up towns, and win auctions for railroad cards. You'll get points for all of these things, and whoever has the most points at the end is the winner of the game. Set up the game by laying out the game board. There are market tracks for each commodity at the top of the board. Take one token of each commodity and put them on the lowest spaces of their corresponding tracks. Make stocks of the rest of the tokens nearby. Shuffle the deck of price and production cards and deal 3 out to each player, leaving the rest of the deck nearby. Make a stock of money in different denominations, then give each player $10 in starting cash. A deck of railroad cards is shuffled and placed on the board, with the top 2 cards flipped up next to it. You'll have to take out sets of railroad cards depending on the number of players. Nearby on the board, you'll place the deck of town cards. Town cards come in sets based on their victory point values, and they're placed in escalating order in the stack. All of the 2s on top of all of the 3s, etc. Do that, then flip the top card face up on the deck. Next is the building offering. There are 6 double-sided commodity tiles. You'll shuffle them and place 4 on the board in their spaces. The other 2 are placed on top of the shuffled stack of advanced building tiles, which is placed nearby. Finally, randomly decide who the start player is. They get to take 1 starting commodity of their choice, the next player gets 2, the third player gets 3, and so on. Starting with the first player, everyone will take their turns in clockwise order, after which the round is finished. On each player's turn, they get 1 action to perform, and they have 5 options for that action. The first option is production. Play one of the price and production cards from your hand, then take only 3 of the commodities depicted in the production section of the card. Since some cards have more than 3, sometimes you won't be able to take all of the commodities unless you build certain buildings that give you that special ability. Some buildings also give you bonus commodities of specific kinds when you take this action. But you are always limited to owning 10 total commodities plus 1 for every building tile that you own. And the special warehouse tile will give you plus 4 to your storage space. Next, look at the price section of the card. Increase the price of the depicted commodities on the tracks of the board by $1. After this, the card is discarded and you immediately redraw 1 to replace it and go back to your maximum hand size of 3. Again, some buildings can increase your hand size. The second option for your 1 action is to sell a commodity. You can sell any quantity of 1 specific commodity, placing them all back in the supply and then taking the cash. For each token that you sell, you gain the current market price. However, after completing the sale, the price for that commodity drops by $1 for every token that you sold. The third option for your action is starting a railroad auction. Pick one of the 2 face-up railroad cards to start an auction. The minimum bid is depicted on the card, and bids are placed starting with whoever declared the auction. Every player in turn order has a chance to bid higher or pass, but if they pass, they may not jump back into the bidding. Whoever ends up with the highest bid will take the railroad card, and a new card is immediately flipped from the deck into the vacant spot. If the player who started the auction wins the card, their turn is done. But if they didn't win it, they can take another action, including another auction if they really desire it. Railroad cards give you victory points at the end of the game, but they also come in sets. If you can gain multiple cards of the same railroad set, then the entire set will be worth a greater amount of points, which is indicated on the bottom of the card. The fourth option for your action is to purchase a building tile. Simply choose a tile in the offering and pay the depicted cost, then place it in front of you. A new tile from the stack immediately replaces it in the offering. Some building tiles are marked with a B for bonus, and they will give you a special advantage during the production action. But only one building at a time can be used in this way, even though you can own multiple buildings that have such an ability. Some other tiles are double-sided, starting off on their +1 side. If, however, they pay the cost on the +2 side, the player can permanently flip it to that side and gain the higher advantage. The other benefit of buildings is that each one is worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. The fifth and final option for your action is purchasing the town card currently face up on the stack. Every town card can be purchased using a specific commodity, but if you don't have enough of it, you can instead spend a higher amount of any commodities. Take the card in front of you and immediately flip the next card in the stack. The lower you go in the stack, the more expensive the town cards are, but they're also worth more victory points. Note as well that every town card that you can pair with a railroad card at the end of the game gets you an extra 2 points. Once you've chosen and taken your action, the next player in turn order will go. Play continues in this way with players buying and selling commodities in order to fund the purchase of buildings, railroads, and towns. The game end is triggered when either the last town card is purchased or the last railroad card is auctioned. In either case, finish out the round so that every player will have had the same amount of turns. Then, add up points. You get points for your own town cards, your railroad card sets, the +2 pair bonus for towns and railroads, and the +1 for each of your buildings. Whoever has the most points is the winner, with ties going to the player with the most money left over. That is Raccon Tycoon. Well, Raccon Tycoon is one of those games where you see very clearly in how elegantly one mechanic rolls into another. So, which I think all of the most notable Euro-style business and trading type games do that. So you are, at first in the beginning of the game, you're just sort of like, I'm going to get some production going, get some commodities, try to jack up the price as much as possible and sell at the right time, but of course everyone else is trying to do that, and when they sell, the price goes down. So you have to very opportunistically be looking forward to those opportunities for you to gather and then sell. But that's just like the ramp-up of the game. You need the money you get from selling, and sometimes in order to get towns, you're just going to need some raw commodities as well. So you're just sort of building these things up at that point. The real meat of the game is actually taking those and then going for the railroad auctions, which is a very interesting concept because you can start an auction and not be the one that actually gets the card, but it doesn't penalize you, so you're just going to go ahead and get another action, and maybe you do that just to sort of draw out the resources of the other players. It's not necessarily a good thing, but it could work out in your favor, perhaps accidentally, like, oh, you just spent a lot of money in this bidding war over this railroad. Now, I'll just take this one very cheaply because you guys have already spent your money and I got this extra action here, because you can even just do another railroad auction if you really want to with your extra action. And then you'll, not having to spend that much leaves you open to buy buildings and things like that that are going to help you even more. And buildings, a lot of things are worth victory points, but including buildings, but more importantly, they can amp up your production or your ability to do other things, your storage space for your commodities, things like that. So, again, you're spending money, making money, and then making money to buy other things, and so on. And of course, the towns are sort of the centerpiece of your victory point strategy. They're worth, as you go dig down through that stack, they become more and more expensive, but worth more and more points. But you can't ignore the railroads, because if you get lucky and get sets, those are worth a lot of points too, but they also pair up with the towns. So to give you a couple extra bonus points. So you're incentivized to do both. But the thing about it is, and I mentioned this in my opening too, is that yes, okay, it seems like there's a lot going on. you're having to, buy this, to get this, to sell this, blah, blah. But really, it is so straightforward. This is described as a gateway game, and it really does feel that way. For anyone who is a casual gamer, this would be a very interesting and good game to teach them, because it's going to be very fast to teach, very fast to set up, and if you want to reset the game to play again, very, very fast to take it down and put everything back together, shuffle a couple decks of cards and the tiles, and you're good to go, and so on and so forth. You only get one action per turn. So with that one action, it's just like, okay, I have several different options for what I can do with that action, but again, I have to do this in order to do this next round, in order to do that the next round. It's all this very logical progression that anyone, even a very light, casual gamer, could get into, or a young gamer as well. And in that note, that also helps with the theming of the game and how the railroad cards have those very colorful and high-quality artwork of the anthropomorphic people of the land of Astoria, things like that. And the whole game has a very pleasant and cheery vibe to it. It's not something to be taken too seriously, and yet for people who are used to heavier Euro games, this is still going to be up their alley, because there's a lot of decision-making and strategy that goes along with it. So if that sounds like it appeals to you, if you like the theme, if you like the buying and selling and the trading, the building up and amping up with the victory points and auction bidding, things like that, don't take my word for it. Go to the official Kickstarter project page and find out more information for yourself. You can follow the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. That is Raccon Tycoon from Forbidden Games. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for supporting our sponsors. Take care.